You ever get arrested for trespassing in your own backyard, just for watering flowers 2 minutes past some imaginary deadline? Yeah, that happened to me. 6:47 in the morning, I'm standing there in my bathrobe, mug of coffee in hand, watching the sprinklers hit my petunias, sun just barely up, when the cops roll up like I'm running a cartel. That's Cordelia for you. She calls 911, screaming about criminal irrigation violations. Sirens, neighbors peeking out their blinds, the whole block thinking I'm some outlaw florist. And when the handcuffs clicked shut on my wrists, all I could think was, "Lady, you have absolutely no idea who you're messing with." Let me back up a sec, because what happened next, you're not going to believe. My name's Bartholomew Sterling, Bart to friends. 30 years on the bench, handing down justice to real criminals. Retirement was supposed to mean lazy mornings and growing tomatoes, maybe even sneaking an extra hour of sleep. 6 months ago, my wife Miriam and I moved to Willowbrook Estates. Picture-perfect ranch house, green lawns, the kind of place where people actually say good morning. The air smelled like mulch and fresh starts, at least for a week. I'd mentioned my background over coffee with a couple of neighbors. Most folks seemed glad. Mrs. Penelope next door squeezed my hand and said, "Finally, someone who understands justice." If only we'd known what was coming next. Enter Cordelia Ashworth, queen of the clipboard, dictator of Willowbrook, and, of course, head of the HOA. You know the type. Hair that never moves, nails that could slice drywall, smile so phony it ought to be illegal. She runs her real estate empire from the corner mansion, surveying the neighborhood from her window like a hawk eyeing a field mouse. Third day of retirement bliss. I hear the click-click of heels on my driveway. There she is, thick stack of violation notices in one hand. Perfume cloud threatening to suffocate me before I can even say hello. "Just a few tiny violations," she chirps, handing me a packet thicker than a legal brief. My crime? Planting tomatoes in the backyard. Actual food, on actual soil, on property I paid for. Nope, not allowed. HOA only permits approved decorative plantings in visible areas. She flips to page 37 of the covenant, points to font so tiny you'd need a microscope. I try reasoning with her. My tomatoes are barely visible unless you're on a ladder. She just snaps back. I've been interpreting these rules for 8 years. Judge or not, rules are rules. Right there, red flag waving. If you dismiss 3 decades of court experience while swinging a clipboard, you've never met real authority. But I played nice. Ripped out the tomatoes, planted some overpriced shrubs, told myself I'd pick my battles. Then the whispers started. Mrs. Penelope corners me at my mailbox, voice trembling. 2 years of terror, $500 in fines for putting up Christmas lights a day early, $300 for her granddaughter's sidewalk chalk art. The Hendersons across the street, violated for their kids' bike training wheels visible through a garage window. Kids hide when Cordelia walks by. Call her the mean clipboard lady. The more I listened, the clearer the picture got. Cordelia wasn't running an HOA. She was running a racket, using rules to target anyone who didn't fit her picture of suburban perfection. Families with non-European last names, renters, young couples, anyone who might push back. All of it. Intimidation, arbitrary fines, threats that just kept piling up. She'd turned Willowbrook into her own fiefdom, and I guess she thought she'd keep it that way. Then she messed with the wrong neighbor. That infamous irrigation ticket? It landed on my door like a death threat. $200 fine for criminal water theft, for watering my own flowers. My sprinkler timer shuts off at 6:45, not a second late. I checked it 100 times. That's when I realized she was surveilling my routine. Every morning, 6:43 sharp, she'd stroll by, stopwatch ready, waiting to pounce. The sound of her heels became the neighborhood alarm clock. So I installed a timestamp camera right on my control box. If she wanted to play precision, I'd give her NASA-level accuracy. The footage was pure comedy. My sprinklers clicked off at exactly 6:45. But Cordelia's fancy watch? 3 minutes fast. She was writing violations based on a made-up timeline. And here's the kicker. My camera caught her sprinklers running late, her husband power washing during forbidden hours, her pool guy blaring equipment on Sunday mornings. The hypocrisy was so thick you could shovel it. It reminded me of a case from the bench. A landlord who only enforced lease violations against certain tenants, ignored others. Selective enforcement. That's the smoking gun in any bias case. I gathered 3 weeks of evidence, clear as day, and invited Cordelia over for coffee. She strutted in, drowning in perfume, ready for battle. I laid out the time-stamped photos like poker cards. Her face twisted through the 5 stages of denial. Then she shrieked, "This is illegal surveillance." I just smiled, sipped my coffee, and told her, "All taken from public view. Same as you've been doing to me." She lost it, dialed 911 right in my kitchen, claiming criminal harassment, trespassing on irrigation schedules. I almost choked on my coffee. Never in my life had I heard someone accuse a man of trespassing against the time of day. Police showed up. Officer Martinez, a guy I'd sworn in as detective just 2 years earlier. Cordelia puffed up, bragged about her connections. I just nodded. She had no idea she was starring in her own arrest video. 2 weeks later, she stepped it up. My daughter Jessica visits for the weekend, parks in the guest spot, gets slapped with a violation for 25-hour guest parking. Cordelia claimed the rule was midnight to midnight, not 48 rolling hours. Meanwhile, her own mother-in-law's Buick squatted in her driveway for 6 days straight. I pulled the original HOA covenant. Guest parking allowed for 48 hours, clear as daylight. She'd been faking rules and cashing in on confusion. And the real twist, she started weaponizing child protective services. The Hendersons, the ones with the bikes? Cordelia threatened to report them for child endangerment because their kids' toys were visible through the window. Sarah Henderson showed up on my porch, crying, "We're selling the house. We can't take it anymore." That was my breaking point. Emergency board meeting, Friday night. Frank Morrison, accountant, admits half the violation interpretations were never voted on. Linda Park, teacher, says Cordelia threatened her job if she spoke up. The whole board, blackmailed and scared. I promised to shield them, and together, we planned a showdown. At the HOA meeting, Cordelia tries to put me on trial. I walk in with copies of the real covenants, pass them out to every resident. Gasps all around. The rules Cordelia's been enforcing are pure fiction. She calls the cops again, her grand finale. But this time, Officer Martinez has had enough. 4th complaint this month, he mutters. All from the same address. All about irrigation schedules. They realize they're being used as Cordelia's personal police squad. Then came the nail in her coffin. Turns out, the Willowbrook HOA had been legally dissolved for 2 years. Cordelia? Not even president of a real organization. Every fine, every threat, every lien she'd filed. Criminal fraud, plain and simple. I pulled records, found 17 fraudulent liens, tens of thousands stolen, an entire shell company web built for extortion. She'd even hired actors to pose as federal agents, intimidating elderly immigrants like Mrs. Penelope. At that point, it was game over. I called the district attorney, handed over my mountain of evidence. Federal agents got involved. Wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy, the whole book thrown at her. At the next community meeting, as Cordelia tried to stage one last safety tribunal against me, the doors burst open. FBI, IRS, the works. She was let out in cuffs, screeching about democratic authority. The lead agent just deadpanned. "Ma'am, you're an unelected criminal running a fake organization. You ever see 127 people cheer at once? That's what real justice sounds like." The legal aftermath was swift. Cordelia got 18 months in federal prison, full restitution ordered, lifetime ban from any HOA role, ever. Willowbrook's stolen money came back with interest. Mrs. Penelope's granddaughter's college fund got a boost, the Henderson kids got a new playground, and my garden finally grew tomatoes again. But the best part? Our neighborhood rebuilt itself from the ground up. We wrote new bylaws, full transparency, annual audits, term limits. Anyone can demand the books, anytime. We even started a scholarship fund for kids studying law and advocacy, our own way to keep this kind of fraud from ever coming back. I wake up now to the smell of fresh-cut grass and kids' laughter instead of the click-click of heels and perfume-induced headaches. Retirement finally feels like a reward, not a battlefield. And if Cordelia taught us anything, it's that a neighborhood is only as strong as the people willing to stand up for each other. So what about you? Got an HOA nightmare that tops mine? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And who knows, your story just might be next. If you believe in real justice and good neighbors, hit that subscribe, smash the like, and tell us what you'd do if a clipboard tyrant tried to run your street. After all, sometimes karma just needs a little nudge, and sometimes justice looks a lot like a tomato garden in full bloom.